I Seem Fun, the Diary of Jen Kirkman podcast, episode 158, the Thanksgiving episode. Look, I brought a Thanksgiving-looking thing to put here. We are live video streaming. Now, don't you worry if you're like, I don't want to watch this home video. You suck. You don't. Listen, this is a podcast. I've been doing it for years. Sometimes I do a live version from the studio. If you aren't familiar with it, you will hate this. So just log off now and save your comments. But if you are a fan of the show, and you should be a fan of the show, it is me doing a solo podcast every week about things going on in my life, mostly, a little bit of what's going on in the world, but I Seem Fun is a thing I came up with years ago because the things I've done in show business make me seem fun. The Chelsea Handler's show, Drunk History. I am not that person in real life. I am not drunk and falling down all the time. I am not talking about Lindsay Lohan, although I do want to talk about her refugee camp she's got a nightclub for refugees, and I don't even understand. Anyway, but it is me, Jen Kirkman, a neurotic, overthinking, feeling person of 42 years. You don't look 42. Fuck off. That's not a compliment. You can enjoy my mug that says rich bitch. The joke of it is that the money sign is not covering up the swear. At jenkirkman.com, go to the merch page. All right. That's a private joke from the podcast. Even if it isn't, why wouldn't you want a mug that says rich bitch? I think it's fantastic. So I'm drinking water. Here we are. It is our Thanksgiving episode. I am thankful for the All Things Comedy Network, for Bill Burr and Al Madrigal asking me to be a part of it, and all the wonderful people that work so hard on all of our podcasts, like Mike and Brenton and Aaron. And here we are. Shit. Sorry, I got a tweet. I got excited. Here we are doing it up. So, I've got an exciting announcement. Friday is Black Friday. You can get, I'm doing my fourth annual, always sold out, Jen Kirkman Dysfunctional Comedy Show at the Hollywood Improv, December 3rd. A bunch of comedians you know and love, Lori Kilmartin, Eddie Pepitone, Brooke Van Poppelen, Solomon Giorgio, all telling hilarious stories, but they're also a little dark, and we're doing this sort of anti-holiday festive thing, but it's also festive. It's the best of both worlds. It won't make you feel bad if you hate the holidays, and if you like the holidays, you won't be like, why are these guys being all cynical? Now, there's a corporate party of 50 people coming, and it's making me shit my pants because I'm assuming they're all Trump supporters, and I'm afraid they're not going to like the show. So I need the fans to come out in full effect, because 50 is only like not even a third of the audience. I think it's 300. So if I get 250 of all you good people, so what I've done for you, and the tickets are $20 each, but a portion of the proceeds goes to the LA Food Bank so you can feed the hungry. And if you bring a pair of child's pajamas or a children's book, brand new, I will donate them for you. You don't have to do a thing to the pajama program. And all that info is on jenkirkman.com. Click on tour dates. But my point is Friday, Black Friday, this Friday, tickets are 2 for 1. If you go to my website, again, jenkirkman.com, click on tour dates, click the link, or go to improv.com if you want to circle through Hollywood and then pick the right night, whatever. And the tickets are 2 for 1 if you put Black Friday, all caps, in the offer code. So you and a friend or partner, or I don't know your status, can come for $20 for the two of you. And you're jipping the charity a little bit. Don't say jip. And then, but that's okay. I want to be charitable to you because I will make my own donation to the LA Food Bank after the show. I will not declare that I'm going to match it because I don't know how much we're going to make, and let's not go crazy. I give to a lot of charities this time of year. But if you get the 2 for 1 tickets, maybe you bring a book with you or something. So that's just for one day only, Friday, Black Friday. Set your calendars or write it down. Okay. I'm hearing my Netflix special is going to be airing like sooner than fuck, like sometime in January. I don't have the exact date yet. I probably shouldn't even say what I just said, but I will be going on a tour in September. Tour dates have changed a little bit since recent events, so forgive me if you don't see your city on the list, but a girl's gotta not be afraid to drive through some areas. Okay, so that's it. I think that's all the... Oh, Sketchfest, San Francisco Sketchfest. I will be coming back to San Francisco in January for the Sketchfest. One night only. I'm just doing a live I Seem Fun at the Swedish American Hall. So that is on sale now. also on my website, jenkirkman.com. Click tour dates, and then you won't see me anywhere until September. So, you want to hear some random facts about Thanksgiving? I'm going to give them to you. And I know. Before all you young people write me as though I haven't been alive fucking longer than you, I've read Howard Zinn. I know Thanksgiving we stole this country. Not on that exact day. I understand. So I left the price tag on. I understand. It's a white person's holiday and it's about oppression. I get it. But are you going to sit home and not do anything? Maybe you are. Is that the right reason? Is that the reason, though? I know a lot of people are not going to celebrate Thanksgiving with their families this year because of aforementioned elections and such. And we'll talk about that later in the episode. But let's start fun before we get frenzied, okay? But look, there's a thing called fucking Thanksgiving, and it's Thursday. I don't know what you want me to do. Undo it, get in the town square. I know what it's built on. With all that being said, here's some fun things about Thanksgiving. The night before Thanksgiving is the biggest drinking night of the year, even bigger than St. Patrick's Day or New Year's Eve, which is totally true. I think people usually go home to their hometowns, they get together with their old friends, they get fucked up, and then the next day is your hangover recovery day. And what better way to recover from a hangover than to have to do jack shit and eat like carbs all day long. So that makes sense to me. I probably won't be drinking the night before Thanksgiving this year. I don't have a event like that planned. I'm still trying to not overdo it or drink a lot. My voice has been so good. I don't want to do anything to fuck it up. Will you guys be drinking? Producer Mike, Aaron? What's your drink of choice? I saw you with a clear liquid at the improv lab. You like a gin and tonic. What do you like to drink?
I like Jack and Coke.
Jack and Coke. Aaron, do you drink? Because of your stomach?
No.
Oh, okay. I know that we had bonded over. What did we get? Upper endoscopy. What do you enjoy a faux alcohol? Do you drink water? Will you be breathing air tomorrow night and more than usual? Aaron,
probably a lot of hot air coming out as I'm yelling at family members.
Oh, you're going to be with your family?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Well, congrats to you for doing it without alcohol, and it's actually better to do it without alcohol because feelings get pretty fucked up. The average American will consume 4,500 calories on Thanksgiving Day. That doesn't seem like a lot. Like 2,500 to 2,500 is normal for a male to eat in a day. So you're only eating 2,000 more. I don't know. It doesn't seem right. 3,000 for the meal and 1,500 for snacking. I don't know. That doesn't. So long before the Pilgrims, Native Hawaiians celebrated the longest Thanksgiving in the world called Makahiki, which lasts for 4 months, approximately from November through February. During this time, both work and war are forbidden. Ooh, ooh. I can get behind that. I suppose they're not doing that anymore. But I would like to celebrate Makahiki all the time. So President Jefferson called Thanksgiving the most ridiculous idea ever conceived. He was not a fan of it. George Washington proclaimed the first Thanksgiving, despite being first proclaimed by George Washington in 1789, Jefferson believed that a national day of Thanksgiving was not consistent with the principle of separation of church and state. Oh my God, except for the slavery, bring back the fucking founding fathers and the oppression towards women. Isn't it amazing that we live in a country now where I'm like, okay, I know they had slaves and women couldn't take part in the government, but they had more intellectual ideas than, I can't even talk about, than President-elect. Okay. He refused to recognize the holiday in any of the 8 years in which he was president. He wrote, "Everyone must act according to the dictates of his own reason." And mine tells me that civil powers alone have been given to the President of the United States and no authority to direct the religious exercises of his constituents. For the record, Presidents Andrew Jackson and Zachary Taylor refused to issue Thanksgiving Day proclamations during their administrations, too. So, great. So, I have an article here. This is called What Really Happened on Thanksgiving. It's from a website called Indian County. And don't worry, it's not going to be all doom and gloom, you white people who get upset. It's just a little more factual. So when you hear about the Pilgrims and the Indians harmoniously sharing the first Thanksgiving meal in 1621, the Indians, referred to so generically, are the ancestors of the contemporary members of the Wampanoag Nation. Is it Wampanoag or Wampanoag?
I think it's Noag.
I think it is too. It's spelled Noag.
Yeah, I
But
think
you never know what those spellings.
They go. They do the full syllables.
They do that. Okay.
Yeah.
No silent O's for the Indian nation of the Wampanoag Nation. As the story commonly goes, the Pilgrims who sailed from England on the Mayflower and landed at what became Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1620 had a good harvest the next year. So Plymouth Governor William Bradford organized a feast to celebrate the harvest and invited a group of Native American allies, including the Wampanoag chief Massasoit, to the party. The feast, I love that they're allies. Were you... Oh, they're allies to the people that invaded their land? They shouldn't have to be anyone's ally. Anyway, the feast lasted 3 days, and according to chronicler Edward Winslow, Bradford sent 4 men on a fowling mission to prepare for the feast, and the Wampanoag guests brought 5 deer to the party. I'm rolling 5 deers deep at this party. And ever since then, the story goes, Americans have celebrated Thanksgiving on the 4th Thursday of November. Not exactly, Ramona Peters, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe's tribal historic preservation officer, told Indian Country Today Media Network in a conversation on the day before Thanksgiving in 2012, 391 years since that first mythological Thanksgiving. The question was, we know we're taught in the mainstream media and schools, we know that's made up. What's the Wampanoag version? She said, yeah, it was made up. It was Abraham Lincoln who used the theme of pilgrims and Indians eating happily together. He was trying to calm things down during the Civil War when people were divided. It was like a nice unity story. So this person added, it was a political thing? Yes, it was public relations. It's kind of genius in a way to get people to sit down and eat dinner together. Families were divided during the Civil War. It's sort of like today where President Obama's on the campaign trail, literally at times, just ripping loose, you know, like, come on, man, and just making fun of Trump. And then now he's got to sit and fucking shake that fucking guy's hand that didn't think he was born in this country. He's got to be kind to this man. And he's like, let's just now everyone calm down. Let's see how he's going to do. And we're all in the streets like, we already know what he's going to do. Everyone's losing their shit. But it's been explained to me that not everyone can act like a little commie like me. Obama cannot declare, this is an emergency, this man is unfit. The world will go into unrest. Now, my point of view is let it happen. It's already there. Just say, no, I can't do this. Look, if Mitt Romney had won, maybe, of course, would have shown him around. Hillary, obviously, it was assumed she won, but forgot that the Russians and the FBI hacked it to make it look like he won by 1 percentage point in every state that he won in, which is strange math. I've been reading about it. I love that people go, you just think they cheated because your side didn't win. I don't have a side. I don't care who the fuck. Listen to me. My side is not hatred. And anyone who's in bed with the Russians. I mean, were you guys alive in the 80s? Oh, you weren't. Take it from the grown-ups. The Russians hack shit. That's what they do. That's what they do. Oh my God, it's not crazy to believe the mainstream news, which says the Russians hacked the fucking election. I'm not crazy for reading the goddamn news. I'm sorry it's not written on jarring white type with black background. That's a website you're reading of a neo-Nazi. What are you reading, the liberal New York Times? Ugh. Anyway. So as we all sit together on Thanksgiving, we realize that we cannot be civilized sometimes in a divided time. That's why some of us will not be joining our... Now, let me finish reading this. I will be not joining my family this Thanksgiving. Nothing to do with Senior Trump. bad hombre numero uno. I usually make a decision between Christmas or Thanksgiving to fly home to Boston and spend thousands of dollars on people that frankly never spend the money to come see me. So I said this year, I'm going to go home during the month of December, not Christmas, and have some gifts and get on my way. But I was never going home for Thanksgiving. Some years I have. There was one year recently I did, and that's because I was living in New York for 2 months, November through January in 2014, and it was easy to take the old Amtrak from Penn Station to Boston. And I had Thanksgiving with my family. I think my family would rather not deal with the whole Thanksgiving thing. My parents are older now. They like to go to a restaurant. My sister likes to do a Friendsgiving with her friends. I hate that the media figured out that people were doing that because now they're like Friendsgiving, and it's so gross. And then Friendsgiving, which used to just be Thanksgiving for people who didn't see their families and just had it with their friends. Now it's a whole other holiday the week before. It's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. That's just called having dinner with your friends. So anyway, that's how I'm not going home. Nothing to do with that, the election. I've said that 50 times. I am meeting my boyfriend's mother for the first time on Thanksgiving, which the reason it's not a big deal, and I'll get back to the article. This is why you love I Seem Fun, because it's really about my life. The reason it's not a big deal is because because Jake has no family. He has a mother and a father, and his father's not around, and so he has a mother who lives in Los Angeles. And that to me is the fucking jackpot. Someone with literally, and I mean literally, no extended family. Now, I'm sure these people exist. I don't need to get into his family history on my podcast. If he wants to talk about it, he can do an announcement to the American people. But to not have to meet anyone else's family is such a joy at my age. I am tired. I've met so many families, so many lovely people I've been in relationships with, but I am familied out. I don't want to talk to anyone's uncle anymore. And so it's a joy. And so we'll be spending it with his mom, but she's not, as I've been told, she's not like a mom. She's not going to be up my business. Like, why are you using that pan? Well, we're not cooking anyway. We're ordering in Thanksgiving food that's already been cooked. But as you know, I was in a marriage, and my mother-in-law was one of the nicest people I've ever met, and I agree with her politics, and I liked her style in a way. I liked the way she lived her life, but I fucked up. Wasn't for me. Shouldn't have been married to that man, but I shouldn't have, just wasn't the right time in my life to have a mother-in-law up my buttocks, and there was a lot of talking about what pans I should have, and I don't want to think about pans ever. I want to be a little more interesting than thinking about pans, and then all I do is look on Instagram and Pinterest and put like home decor pins on a board, but that's different. But I don't bore you with a conversation about pans except on this fucking podcast. So, I forgot. I have to buy some Tupperware. That is not a joke. That is me leaving. I have to write myself a note. Anyway, I remember one time my mother-in-law said to me when I was visiting over Christmas, "What are you going to do with your hiatus?" That's what us show business people call vacation. I was writing on a popular television show at the time, and we had 2 weeks off. I said, well, I'm going to work on some other stuff on my own, and I'm probably just going to watch movies. And she said, you might get into baking. No, I might not. I definitely won't get into baking. And she kept saying, you might, though. That's a good way to relax. Not for someone who hates baking, doesn't want to go to the grocery store, carry stuff home, dirty things and clean them, and then, no, not baking. Thank you, though, for the suggestion of a thing I'll never do. So I'm really thankful this holiday that I am with someone who doesn't have a family. I thought I had hit the jackpot. Now, let's go back in the time machine. I thought I'd hit the jackpot last year when I was dating a guy whose mother was dead. And this is evil to say, but I had specifically wished for that. If you watch my 2015 Netflix special, I sort of put it out there in the universe. I secreted it that I thought someone with a dead mom would be ideal, because then that mother could not get in my business and be like, why don't you have kids, or when are you getting married? And it turns out when someone's mother has passed and this person doesn't have their life together, all they talk about is their mother. And their mother is a perfect person who never told them to pick up their socks or anything. And so they don't know how to be in a relationship with women. So do not wish, or be careful what you wish for. You might get it. But a year ago this time, I was with my Australian ex, or he wasn't my ex at the time. And I was so anxious. I don't know how to describe it. I thought it was the anxiety of being in a long distance relationship, which causes so much anxiety, especially when you're on the other sides of the world and you only have a few waking hours that you're kind of in the same time zone when you can speak. And I don't mean I didn't trust him like cheating. I just didn't trust him. I don't know what it was. I just didn't trust that anything he said was real after a while. Like his plans, I'm going to move here, I'm going to do this. I just went, I caught a fish I should have thrown back, you know? You know when you catch a fish and you know, take it home and cook it, and then some you just throw back. I should have thrown it back, and I didn't. And he came to visit me the week of Thanksgiving, not because it was Thanksgiving, but it just worked out that way. And I just knew then, something is wrong here. Something was wrong. And he didn't really understand my podcast, and that was something that not really bothered me, but sometimes he would just walk in the house when I was taping it, and I would make him get on the mic, and he thought it was weird. And just like Madonna and Warren Beatty and Truth or Dare, you know when the person doesn't want to get on the camera that they're going to leave. And you'll be there with your backup dancers. Now, I don't have any backup dancers, so when we broke up, I had to get through it on my own. But God, I knew in my heart that something wasn't right, and I was feeling anxious, and I was feeling anxiety all the time in that feeling, if you will allow me to go spiritual for a minute, when you're doing your will versus the will of what should be, sometimes you feel tight. You're being like a vice. You're just being squeezed. And I knew something wasn't right, but I couldn't tell, well, is that just the long distance, or is that him? And it was him and me. It was not, he is not a mature person who knows how to be in a relationship. I'm sure he's in one now or something, but I don't think he's ever going to get that part of his life together. You know, those people, you might have them in your life, whether for them it's drinking or getting a job. You're just like, that's not going to happen for you. He is just not well. He is kind of just a nomad, kind of a nowhere, whatever. Nowhere man, if that makes sense. Not a bad person at all, but I do not need to be friends with him is where I've landed. And we have not been friends. We have not spoken in at least over 6 months, and not in an angry way, just not, I don't recognize him as a person that could be in my life. But what a difference a year makes. I think I knew last year as I was hanging out with my best friend, Jake, all the time, I was like, fuck, what's going on? And so it seems normal and lovely to be back with my ex. And technically, we've been together over Thanksgivings before, but we were either living in different places or we had other plans, so we never combined them. So this will be the first one that we combine. And I think we've hung out on Thanksgiving before. That's not true. Oh, I'll tell you guys a story. So when my ex and I were dating before, from roughly December 2011 to January 2014, was always an open thing, you know, keep it casual, don't commit, even though that's all I wanted to do. But I was having some problems. And so, you know, we never did the normal thing that couples do. So this one Thanksgiving, he was like, I'm just going to go to my mom's house. She's having some friends over of hers. And I said, that's great. I'm going to go to a friend's house. And I went to a friend's house who didn't have Thanksgiving food. And I didn't know that. I said to my friend, should I bring anything? And they were like, no, that's fine. And I don't know how to discuss it because the food was incredible, but it wasn't Thanksgiving food. Now, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. And what I call cheating vegan. I don't eat dairy. But I do eat fish sometimes for reasons. So, but for me, I just mainly just pretty much know that there's no meat and mostly no dairy, or no dairy. But on Thanksgiving, if I'm going to your house and you've got mashed potatoes that you made with butter, yeah. I'm eating that. Unless I have a performance that night, the dairy fucks with my voice. So I'm sort of like, I'll do whatever I want on Thanksgiving. Although I never want to eat turkey. It's gross. No offense. So I get to my friend's house, and it's kale salad. And I'm a health nut. I like kale. I'm one of these Hollywood liberals that likes kale. But I like it in a smoothie. I don't want to have to look at it. Just hide that kale from me. I don't like it. I've eaten it. I'll eat it again. I don't like it. My friend made kale and then some kind of rice thing and then some kind of like healthy boiled fish. I don't know what was happening, and I wanted to cry. And I thought, I was in a deep denial, like maybe these are appetizers, as we sat at the table and toasted Happy Thanksgiving. And I was like, this isn't an appetizer. And I still don't have words for it. And I went home early and I sat on my couch in a daze. I just couldn't believe what had happened to my life. And Jake at the time, my boyfriend, said, I have leftovers from what my mom made. And I was like, oh God, please. And he brought over the cranberry sauce, the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, all the fixings. And I just ate it out of Tupperware. And I was like, this is the best. So that was the only time we spent Thanksgiving together. And so we will be doing it right this time. But yeah, last year, don't you love, if your life is better in some ways than it was a year ago, don't you sometimes love just thinking about it? Like, God, and I got through it. You guys, don't give up. A year can make such a difference. Like sort of how last year was amazing and this year we elected Trump. Okay, so let's keep reading about the Wampanoags. So here's what the, what's this woman's? Ramona Peters, the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe's Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. Here's what she says really happened. We made a treaty. The leader of our nation at the time, I like how she's talking like she was there, like I've lived 300 years. I did it by, just eating small meals and walking a lot. The leader of our nation at the time, Yellow Feather Osmequeen Massasoit, made a treaty with John Carver, the first governor of the colony. They elected an official while they were still on the boat. They had their charter. They were still under the jurisdiction of the King of England. At least that's what they told us. So they couldn't make a treaty for a boatload of people. So they made a treaty between two nations, England and the Wampanoag Nation. The treaty basically said that we, the Indians, would let them be there and we would protect them against any enemies and they would protect us from any of ours. It was basically an I'll watch your back, you watch mine agreement. Later, we collaborated on jurisdictions and creating a system so that we could live together. What's the Mashpee version of the 1621 meal? You've probably heard the story of how Squanto assisted in the planting of corn. So this was their first successful harvest, and they were celebrating that harvest and planning a day of their own Thanksgiving. And it's kind of like what some of the Arab nations do when they celebrate by shooting guns in the air. So this is what was going on over in Plymouth. They were shooting guns and cannons as a celebration, which alerted us because we didn't know who they were shooting at. Fucking America. From the beginning. Woo! So Massasoit gathered up some 90 warriors and showed up at Plymouth prepared to engage if that's what was happening, if they were taking any of our people. They didn't know. It was a fact-finding mission. When they arrived, it was explained through a translator that they were celebrating the harvest. So we decided to stay and make sure that was true because we'd seen in other landings, Captain John Smith, even the Vikings had been here. We just wanted to make sure, so we decided to camp nearby for a few days. During those few days, the men went out to hunt and gather food, deer, ducks, geese, and fish. Ugh. Imagine you show up to a Thanksgiving and someone just like, here's a geese, plop. You take the feathers out yourself. There are 90 men here, and at the time, I think there are only 23 survivors of that boat, the Mayflower, so you can imagine the fear. You have armed natives who are camping nearby, and the colonists were always vulnerable to the new land, new creatures, even the trees. There were no such trees in England at that time. People forgot that they had just landed here, and this coastline looked very different from what it looks like now. And their culture, new foods, they were afraid to eat a lot of things. I can't have that! What is that? So they were very vulnerable, and we did protect them, not just support them, we protected them. You can see throughout their journals that they were always nervous, and unfortunately when they were nervous, they were very aggressive. Oh, white people, I'm scared, here's my gun. So the pilgrims didn't invite the Wampanoags to sit down and eat turkey and drink dinner? She laughs. Haha, no. Let's just put it this way. People did eat together. It was our homeland and our territory, and we walked all through their villages all the time. The difference is how they behaved, how they ate, how they prepared things. That was a lot for both cultures to work with each other. But in those days, it was sort of like today when you go out on the boat in the open sea and you see another boat and everyone's waving and very friendly. It's because they're vulnerable and need to rely on each other if something happens. In those days, the English really needed to rely on us, and yes, they were polite as best they could be, but they regarded us as savages nonetheless. So the person asks, so you did eat together sometimes, but not at the legendary Thanksgiving meal? She says, no. We were there for days. Again, I love how she's acting like she was there. And this is another thing. We give thanks more than once a year in formal ceremony for different reasons. For the green corn Thanksgiving, for the arrival of certain fish species, whales, the first snow, our new year in May. There are so many ceremonies, and I think most cultures have similar traditions. It's not a foreign concept, and I think human beings who recognize greater spirit than them would have to say thank you in some formal way. So what are the Mashpee Wampanoags taught about Thanksgiving now? Most of us are taught about the friendly Indians and the friendly pilgrims and people sitting down and eating together. They don't really go into any depth about the period and what it was like in 1620. There was always focus on food because people had to work hard to go out and forage for food, not the way it is now. There's another element that needs to be noted as well. The Puritans believed in Jehovah, and they were listening for Jehovah's directions on a daily basis and trying to figure out what would please their God. So for Americans, for the most part, there's a Christian element to Thanksgiving. So formal prayer, and some families will go around the table and ask what you're thankful for this year. In Mashpee families, we make offerings of tobacco. Now that sounds fun. For traditionalists, we give thanks to our first mother, our human mother, and to Mother Earth. Earth ain't no woman, here's my gun. Then, because there's no real time, you embrace your hands, thanks and passing them into the tobacco without... Wait, am I speaking English anymore? Then, because there's no real time to it, you embrace your thanks and passing them into the tobacco without necessarily speaking out loud. But to actually give your mind and spirit together, thankful for so many things. Unfortunately, because we're trapped in this cash economy, in this 9 to 5, we can't spend the normal amount of time on ceremonies, which would last 4 days for a proper Thanksgiving. Well, that's the real Thanksgiving. Comment section, someone wrote, this is so racist against white people. I can't. I fucking can't. You goddamn tell a story in a paper about a tribe that lived here before white people came, and then you just, very diplomatically, she described what the white people were like. They were nervous and they had their guns. That's racist against whites. I'm sorry I'm doing a southern accent. If you don't want to be known like that, don't vote for fucking Trump in the next election, and I won't call you racist. Or go back in time and don't be fighting the North because you want slaves. I know not all anything. So, let's have some memories about my Nana. I always loved Thanksgiving because it was a special treat when my Nana, Jeanette, as we called her, my mom's mom, who was a widow for 39 years of her life. She was not unhappy about it. Thank you very much. She didn't need your pity. She's no longer with us. She grew to not love her dead husband more and more every year. So she would come visit, and we would take walks to a place called the Little Red Store. I mean, it sounds like I was born in the 20s, but it is now, and then it became Hazel's Bakery, which we're like, whoa, hang on a minute. Who's this Hazel in her bakery? This is way too fucking corporate. And now it's a 7-Eleven. So we went to the Little Red Store, and we would take a walk, and it was always the morning before Thanksgiving, and she would buy me donuts, and she would let me eat one on the walk home without telling my mom. And then she would just tell me stories, all kinds of fucked up things that you probably shouldn't tell a child, but, you know, Jesus is coming and the end of the world, and her husband wasn't a nice man, and she didn't love him, and she went on a date one time, my Nana. Someone said to her, you need to go on a date. And she told me this when I was about 12 years old, and we were taking our walk back from the Little Red Store in a nice, crisp fall day back in Massachusetts in, God, this would be 1986. And she said that some man asked her out on a date, and then she said yes, and she assumed they would be going out at night, going to dinner. And then he said, do you want to go to church together one morning? And she was like, that's not a fucking date, church. And he's like, no, we'll go to breakfast before. She was like, all right. And he took her to McDonald's, and she was pissed. My Nana's not some fancy lady. She was a very, very woman of modest means, if any means. Kept her money in tinfoil and wrapped it up like a sandwich and put it in the bottom drawer of your stove that you don't even know you have. You millennials in your first apartments, go to the stove. There's a drawer under there. And that's where, if you were an old woman, you would put your pots and pans and then your money, because she thought the robbers would never look there. And she was fucking right. Not that anyone ever robbed her house. We never got to test that theory, but I believe they wouldn't have looked there. And so anyway, she was like, can you not piss on my leg and tell me it's raining? Or that's not the expression, doesn't, whatever the expression is for someone taking you to McDonald's and you're super bummed about it and you're like, oh. The worst thing, if you're going to go get pancakes, just go to IHOP or Denny's. It's a little more expensive than McDonald's. But let someone know you care, because the minute you have to open up syrup from a plastic thing and you're in a restaurant, that's not even how they do it to go. That's how they do it to in when you sit down. That's just like a fuck you. That guy thought he was going to get laid. I mean, I don't think they were having sex. But anyway, so my Nana would tell me stories like that. And then she loved the city of Atlantis. She was obsessed with that and the Bermuda Triangle, all kinds of weird conspiracies my Nana was into. And then we'd go home, we'd read the Enquirer together, and we would watch television. She had a crush. My grandmother had a crush on Rob Reiner's character, Meathead, on All in the Family. I think my mom has a crush on John Lennon. My mom and my Nana have a real thing for hippies. You wouldn't know it from my mom's politics as of late, but they have a real thing for hippies. My Nana would go, oh, that meathead is so sexy. Oh, that's my mom's impression. Whatever. It was my Nana too, I guess. And I was always uncomfortable with my Nana talking about anyone being sexy, which I shouldn't have been, because I was also watching the Golden Girls and celebrating their wild times. And when my own Nana was trying to tell me what makes her horny, I shut her down. And that's not very nice. So anyway, I always think of my Nana that time of year. And there was one year when she was, let's see, she died at 99 when I was 35. So if I was 15, that would have made her 79. Yeah, about 79. This makes sense. I was about a teenager. No, I was probably a little older, because I think I was about 18, so she's probably in her early 80s. She says, I went on antidepressants, and she told the family that at Thanksgiving dinner. And we were like, why? Are you depressed? She goes, I can't stop living. And I thought that was the funniest thing. And oh my God, I am so fucking mad at myself. Oh my God, I have the most genius ending to a joke I just fucking taped on my Netflix special. I could never find an ending. God damn it! This is what fucking happens. Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? It's not that good. It's not that good. It's just okay. My whole Netflix special is called Just Keep Living, because it's Matthew McConaughey's personal mantra, and I have it tattooed on my ankle, JKL. And the whole fucking point, it's just a logic thing. You guys will watch the special and you'll love it anyway. But what I'm saying is, I tell a story about my friend's grandfather who was in the Holocaust, and she was inspired by his story, and she got his name tattooed on her wrist. And I say, no one in my family ever said anything inspiring. I had to read a People magazine and tattoo something Matthew McConaughey said on my ankle. Just keep living. And so I go on, and it's a fine little quick joke story. But what I'm about to tell you, you'll go, oh, well, that's the punchline to your joke in the special. And I'll go, fucking should have been, didn't come to me. So what I'm about to tell you is, we said, Nana, oh my God, it would have gone so, okay. We said, Nana, why are you on antidepressants? And she said, I just can't seem to stop living. And we're like, oh. And she's like, it's freaking me out. Being alive was freaking her out. because she thought God was keeping her on earth because he didn't want her around him. And so she thought the longer she lived, the closer that it definitely meant she was going to hell. And she was like, just send me to hell. I'll just get it over with. And she would always, so she would take her pill and she would look at me and go, I can't stop living, and just smile at me. How the fuck did I not think to put that in my joke? That my friend would sit and listen to her 80-something-year-old grandfather who was like, I survived the Holocaust, and she was all inspired. And I got a talk of my grandmother going, I can't stop living. It's time to start taking pills. How did I not put those two things together? That story lives in my brain. It lives in my soul. God damn it. This is what happens when you're a comedian and you got a new hour every year. Fuck you, a new hour every year. You got to take your time with shit. I am so upset. Anyway, just know that would have been a better ending to the joke. But that's what she said. I can't stop living. And she'd take her, not Prozac. What's the other one that was very popular? Zoloft. And she would start drinking wine. And woo, that was fun. She would have a glass or two. And we'd say, Nana, are you supposed to be drinking? You know, obviously everyone on antidepressants drinks, but she's an old lady. And she was like, whatever, if it gets me there sooner, meaning death. And then she would get very randy, as you would say, and she would say she loved playing cards. She loved gambling. She's a big gambler, loved to go to the slot machines. But we don't have a slot machine in my family's home. And she would say, let's play poker. And I didn't know how to play poker. And she would be like, you're crazy. You got to know how to play poker. And so we'd clear the table. And then she would start flirting with my dad, not her son, so it's not as weird. And she would go, let's play strip poker, Ronnie. And he'd be like, okay, Jeanette, I don't know about that. All right. And then he'd start losing. And she'd go, come on, Ronnie, strip. And then she would just sit on his lap. And I have a great picture of her just jumping into his lap. She had to start acting like Courtney Love. She'd just get in his lap and just start like putting her arms around him and just being like, wah. And it was so much fun. And I don't know why that woman wanted to stop living, because she was a real trip. And most of the time she was just very quiet and very sweet and reading the Inquirer. And I love Nana Jeanette, but I always think of her around Thanksgiving. Oh, and the favorite thing that she used to love to do that my mother hated, and she used to love to annoy my mother as though she was my mother's child, not my mother's mother. You know, those taper candles. We had those, and my sister taught me how to run your finger through the flame without it catching on fire. And my Nana would love when we would do that, and we would teach her. My mother goes, stop teaching Nana how to put her hand in the flame. She can catch on fire easier. Like old people, their skin, maybe it's true, her skin did look like paper, but she would go, oh, stop it, Joanne, your mother's no fun. And then my mother would cry and be like, stop ganging up on me with my own mother. And just the memories don't stop. The memories of Thanksgivings don't stop. And so family's important this time of year. And I really do miss my Nana. She was great. I feel she would not have voted for Donald Trump. I feel she would have been like, what a stupid asshole. I remember she screamed when she was 90, I hate the Yankees and I'm a Democrat. And she wasn't losing her mind. She just felt passionate and screamed that out one day. And you have to understand, she worked in the Lowell mills, the mills of Lowell, the textile mills. You know, bosses grabbing her butt, making 5 cents a year, horrendous conditions. And I was talking to a young guy. It was like a young 25-year-old guy. And I go, my Nana never wanted to get married. You know, she wanted to be a seamstress. And she was actually 28 when she got married. And this guy goes, why'd she get married? I'm like, oh, facepalm. Dude, it was fucking 1928. Women didn't have their own money, you dumb fuck. Why'd she get married? I mean, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. As Howard Stern's father said to him, don't be stupid, you moron. So anyway, I said, well, she kind of had to. Well, I'm like, no, she had to. So God bless you, Nana. I hope there is a heaven. I hope Jesus is there. I hope God's not mad at you. What if she was right? What if we just dismiss people who say crazy shit? What if she was right? Like, because she was like, well, I haven't gone to church in a while because I don't have my normal ride and I don't drive. She never learned how. Her husband wouldn't let her. Why wouldn't she just drive on her own then? Shut up. So anyway, what if God is like that? Like, let's just pretend there's a God and assume there's a God. I don't mean pretend like there isn't. I have no answer and I'm fine with it either way. But let's say there's a God and we don't get bogged down in if there's a God argument. We just, for this story, there's one. And we're all down here like, no, he's so nice. He's just, forgiving. And then my Nana, as her knees get bad, can't walk to church anymore, doesn't have a ride, and has no car. And God's like, do you see this? Jesus, get over here. My only son, come here. Look at this bitch. Who the fuck? Yeah, she's watching All in the Family reruns, getting all hopped up for this guy, Meathead. She could be in church right now. Oh, she could have gone with that guy that took her to McDonald's, but she was cock teased to him. Fuck this bitch. I don't want her up here. I don't want her up here. I'm going to keep her alive 20 more years. Like, what if that was God? I'm starting to think it is. So, anyway. All right, before I read the listener emails and then we get the fuck out of here, I'm going to talk about my, I don't normally do this. I shouldn't do it. I was going to talk about a family member who made a comment on Instagram. I'll do it. I won't say who it is. I have a family member who is the sweetest woman you have ever known. She is, she reminds me of my other grandmother, my Nana Kirkman. My Nana Kirkman, when we found out she had Alzheimer's, we were like, wait, you're just finding out now? Like, she seemed like she was forgetful in that Alzheimer's way since she was 60, so maybe she had early onset, we didn't know, but when she had it to like hallucination levels and didn't know who people were in her 90s, like she was kind of like that anyway for a long time. But the one thing about my Nana was she had a hard life, and I didn't really find out about some things until after she died, that she thought her husband was cheating on her because he was, and one night she just wasn't home when he came home to get his dinner that was cooked, and she had taken a job as a waitress down the street somewhere, and basically was like, if you want to see me for dinner, you can come sit and take the kids, and I'll wait on you. I mean, it was such a classic story, but anyway, I didn't know this about her. I didn't know that she was one of those silent, strong types that would do things like that, and just, if her husband was cheating, he stays in her life. She never says anything, but she kind of got a little of her own independence. That's not the story. My point is, she was always a big Jesus lover. Jesus, Mary, statues everywhere. Maybe I'm romanticizing her. I didn't really ask her, hey, are you racist or homophobic? But it doesn't seem that way. She was not like all there enough in a way to even have too deep of an opinion on things. Like, she loved angels and her cats and Jesus. And it wasn't in a brimstone and fire way. It wasn't this Bible Belt way. It was just like, Jesus seems like a nice man, and Jesus forgives, and always be nice to each other. And that's all she talked about. And so there's a family member that's related to her who is the same way. And she's lovely, and she really walks the walk of someone who loves JC. And she's no stranger to people of different races. We have people of different races in our family. By marriage and stuff. And I assumed she was probably a little socially conservative, but not in the way that it would infringe on anyone else, if that made sense. She'd probably be the type to welcome anyone who's gay into the fold, but maybe secretly she would worry they were going to hell, which I'm not saying is a great way to be, but it's pretty good for someone that could be worse, if that makes sense. Anyway, I posted a picture of a swastika on my Instagram account. Before you go, what the fuck did you do that for? It was a picture of a tweet that a senator had posted who found one carved outside of his home in New York City. And he had written in the tweet that this was a direct result of Trump's America, and there had been 700 hate crimes in the last day. And so I put that on my Instagram, as in, this is very sad and how scary. And it's New York City, my old home. I don't like to see New York City acting that way. And she has never commented on my Instagram before. There's pictures of my Christmas tree. There's pictures of me doing things that are fun and lively. And she wrote, don't blame Trump for this. And I thought, oh, she's not doing critical intellectual thinking, where I didn't say Trump got on the mic and said, paint swastikas, but he didn't denounce any of the hate crimes. And he hired Steve Bannon, who is a literal Nazi. And his whole campaign was one of hatred. And so she's correct. I only heard him talking about Muslims and Mexicans, but I assume we would extend the same courtesy of hatred to the Jews if you are a Trump supporter who actively enjoyed his message of separation. And I found it interesting that she had to be so literal and say, blame the person who did it. And I'm thinking, okay, honey, that's a very adorable message. But when we talk about a culture that someone created, that's what it stems down from. And I'm sure that person was anti-Semitic for years, but now they feel emboldened by that because their president doesn't give a shit and is not uniting America, is letting it divide itself. And again, you know me, I'm fine with us dividing. Let all the racist punks try to run their own country. But anyway, I was very hurt, and I wrote back that I was hurt, and I deleted the comment. Then I just deleted the post. And I'm not going to my family's extended family's Christmas party this year. I wasn't anyway, but it really brought home to me that it's not just my loudmouth members of my family who love Trump. It's everyone, and it's silent, and it's very upsetting. And so I don't know how she can look at her kids and her mixed race grandchildren and say, yeah, I'm voting against you. I don't know how. And if she wants to think that she wasn't, if she wants to think that she is not complicit, that's great. But I'm done with the bullshit. And I think she's lovely and nice. And that's why I never want to do anything to hurt her. But I disagree violently with her. I think she was out of line with me. And I would love to know if anyone in my family, if anyone didn't vote for Trump, I'd love to hear from you. Because I really, so far it's just me and my two sisters that didn't. And God, I can't imagine if I didn't have sisters like I did. I can't imagine. I'm so thankful. Thankful for my sisters. Such lovely, lovely women. I mean, the sweetest, like, to a fault, care about other people, where I'm like, you guys, come on. Let's get selfish. I love my sisters. Shout out to them. Okay, listener emails. I said send me fucked up things about Thanksgiving. And this one broke my heart. I don't know. I don't know if you guys remember last year, an older woman wrote me that she loves Hallmark movies just like I do. Hang on. I forget where we were corresponding. Maybe it was on Instagram or Twitter. It might have even been Gmail or her son. I don't remember. I talked to so many of you people. No, I said I'd love to watch one with you sometime. And I'm serious, but no, I'm boiling water. So she writes, "Hi, Jen, it's Judy, your adoptive 75-year-old grandma who loves Hallmark movies. The season has begun. I've already started watching, and my son told me you're having a special viewing with your fans of your favorite Hallmark. Boy, would I love to be there, and that's the truth. Thank you for reading my other letter on your podcast, and I hope we can watch one together someday. I love Silver Bells and Fallen Angel. Have a wonderful holiday season. Best wishes, Judy." Judy, I love you. I love you even if you voted for Trump, Judy. I love you. And Judy, your son, or your grandson, no, your son, is making it sound as though I'm watching Hallmark movies and inviting people over and you're not invited. I don't know what he's talking about. So far, I've only watched them by myself. I don't even make my significant other watch them because I've showed him like 5 minutes. He gets the point. I watch them over text with my sister Gail. I can't get my other sister into it. She's busy saving the world, which I mean that not as a pejorative. It's a good thing. But I'm not having any such thing. The only thing I can think of that he might be thinking of is my Jen Kirkman Dysfunctional Christmas show, December 3rd at the Hollywood Improv, where instead of doing traditional stand-up, I'm going to do 10 minutes where I sort of poke fun at the production quality of the Hallmark movies. That might be what he's talking about. So, as you know, Judy, when you love something deeply, that's when you can parody it. And I love those movies deeply, but I'm noticing this season, they all have a common thread, as they always do. The busy businesswoman doesn't have time for love, is holding cups of coffee with no liquid in the cups. And they're like, here's your hot coffee. And the person just grabs it with like one finger and like twirls it like a fucking, globetrotter. And I'm like, why don't they act like there's coffee in the cup? It's not that hard to do. You can put water in it, and things like that, and all the usual tropes that we enjoy. Now, you're naming movies, I don't know, Silver Bells and Fallen Angel. Judy, are we watching, there's 2 Hallmark channels. There's Hallmark, and then there's like HMN or something. So there's 2 kinds of Hallmark movies. One is they're always romantic. It's busy businesswoman, New York City, really filmed in Toronto. She doesn't have time for love. She goes outside a lot with her no scarf, no hat, no gloves. It's snowing. And then she meets some guy, and then they fall in love, and then she gets both things, a job. She gets a promotion. They're always with men that don't have jobs. And then she gets a promotion, and then he works with her, and then they, I don't know, live happily ever after. But then there's ones that are more about angels and divorced moms and someone died. So I'm wondering if you're watching the more like, I call them the more like religious, heavy message ones. I'll have to watch those. Okay. This is from, I didn't write down their name. Dear Jen, trying to keep this brief, thank you. A few years ago, our usual big family Thanksgiving turned into a small one that included 4 people I've never met before. The day before, I had grapes with lunch, and it felt like one was stuck in my esophagus. I spent 4 hours in the ER that night before they decided either nothing was there, or at least it wasn't serious enough to call in a specialist to look at it on a holiday. The feeling went away at some point on Thanksgiving, and I later learned about the globus sensation, which is the feeling of having a lump in your throat, frequently due to anxiety. Like the anxiety an I Seem Fun listener might get about having to spend Thanksgiving with strangers. The end. That is true. And you know, when I was having my vocal problems, 2 doctors told me it was in my head and I was having globus sensation. And I was like, I don't feel like there's a lump in my throat. You can hear my vocal cords aren't working, and I can feel a strain and like a soreness in my throat, which turned out to be acid reflux. So I do know about globus. Globus, who fucking cares? That sounds like a horrible Thanksgiving. So this Australian says, I had my first Thanksgiving 5 years ago. I'm Australian, so we don't celebrate it. However, I was living in Shanghai, China at the time, and most of my friends were American, so we celebrated the holiday. Thoughts? Eating a giant bird that takes hours to cook is disgusting. Having it presented the way it is awful. Oh, I agree. My friends had to prepare their turkey in their bathtub once because it was so large. Is this normal? I don't think so. You know me, I'm a vegetarian, and anyone bitching about the environment, you gotta be a vegetarian or you can't bitch. The combination of marshmallow and sweet potato is heavenly. Yeah, that's a thing I never had in my family. That was like I heard about other people. I'm like, they must be rich. Brussels sprouts. Why does someone every year bring Brussels sprouts? I never had those growing up. Now I like them. Sorry. What the fuck is this actual holiday celebrating? Well, I just read you the thing. When will white people learn? Never. Do people protest this holiday? Nope. Surely they must. We don't. By the way, you know that this is 100% the Live, Laugh, Love lady's favorite holiday, and you know she's been planning her menu, table setting and all, and knitting fall sweaters for everyone in the family for months. That's true. But she doesn't have time to yell at you right now about that because she's busy working in her cubicle. I bought Thanksgiving napkins. Don't get me wrong. It's a turkey with little glasses. He looks kind of like a nerd turkey, which I'm not into nerd culture. I don't know why I bought them. They're the only Thanksgiving napkins I could find at Cost Plus World Market. My favorite place. They should totally advertise on the podcast, don't you think? Get Cost Plus on the fucking phone or just tell them to send me shit. I think that's it. Okay, I'm going to make a plea right now to everybody out there. I hope this was a good Thanksgiving episode. I think it was perfect. A little depressing, a little fun. You saw me have a meltdown about thinking of a good ending to a joke. My book, oh, I wish I had it on me. My book, I Can Barely Take Care of Myself, Tales of a Happy Life Without Kids, is the perfect Christmas gift for you or your friend that doesn't want kids. Now, that book came out 3 years ago, and since then, a lot of books about not having kids have come out, and everyone references them like, it's so funny. I'm like, I wrote one of the first ones, so go back to the source. My other book, I Know What I'm Doing in Other Lives, I tell myself about traveling by myself, divorce, living by my own drum beat. That is a great gift for the individual in your family or to give someone who doesn't understand you, your individualism, and say, read this and you'll get to know me. Both books are on Amazon.com. Both are in paperback. No, both are in hardcover. The one about no kids, I Can Barely Take Care of Myself, is in paperback. They're both on Kindle for like $9.99. Come on, people. So I would encourage you to think about those books as Christmas gifts. I know that 85% of the I Seem Funners did not buy my book the first week like I asked you to. So I am going to ask you now to buy it, if you still haven't bought it, as a Christmas gift for you and yours. I also just got verified today on Instagram, so you can all go fuck yourselves. I'm officially too good to do this podcast, and this is my last episode. Just kidding. Just kidding. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to be in New York next week doing something at Joe's Pub for the IFC network. So if you see me going to New York, don't be like, I thought you said your tour was over. It's a television taping. It's a little comedy sketch I have to do. Calm the fuck down. I'm only going to be in New York for 30 hours, so no, I'm not doing any other shows when I'm there. I will just be flying in, flying out. I will be in New York the 9th through the 14th for vacation, because that's how I do. So, again, don't be like, I thought you did do a show. No, I actually have friends there that I want to see, and spending time, because I met my main man in New York at Christmas, which sounds like a Hallmark movie, and it basically was. And so we'll be going there to do Christmassy things. So if you see any of that on my Instagram, please prevent me the heart attack and don't go, are you doing shows? No. If I do, it's like I'll pop into a friend's show and do 5 minutes, but I don't really have time. All my nights are booked, so don't get on my ass. All right, that's about it. Enjoy your holidays. I know this is such an American episode. I forgot that there's not Thanksgiving other places, but I think of all of you when I look at this, and I'm so great. Oh my God, I'm so thankful for the I Seem Fun audience. You guys have been so nice to me lately. The things you've been writing on the Facebook wall and on the Twitter, it's just been, you're such sweethearts. I feel such love. I feel if we can be nice to each other, we don't know each other. There's such hope for the world. There's goodness out there, you guys. I still don't know if I'm going to do This Week Seemed Fun this week. I think I'm going to give myself a week off. But I'll be back in the swing of things next week. Or I might tape one and then just have it for next week because I'm going to be so busy. But let me just get the fucking, all the different, at I Seem Fun podcast on Twitter. And the Facebook page is fb.me/I Seem Fun podcast. And you know what? It's been a while. Go to iTunes, give it 5 stars, and write I Can't Stop Living as your review. How's that sound? Otherwise, that's it. Until next week, have fun.